Am I the jerk for not giving my restaurant savings to my sister and getting kicked out because of it? I, 25 male, had been saving money for years to open my own small restaurant. It was always my dream to be a chef and run my own place. Every penny I earned from part-time jobs and full-time work after college was put aside for this goal. After 7 years of hard work and careful living, I had managed to save up $75,000. My parents knew about my dream, but they never seemed to take it seriously. They always treated it like a phase I would grow out of. I lived with them to save on rent, which helped me reach my savings goal faster. Looking back, maybe I should have moved out sooner. My younger sister, 19, female, has always been the favorite child. She's smart, popular, and excels at everything she does. My parents never missed an opportunity to compare us, always finding ways to put me down while praising her. It was made clear from a young age that she was the golden child, and I was just there. Last month, my sister got accepted into an Ivy League school for her master's degree. It was a big deal, and my parents were over the moon. The problem: tuition and living expenses were way more than they had anticipated. They had some money saved up for her education, but it wasn't nearly enough. One evening, my parents called a family meeting. I thought it was just to discuss my sister's acceptance, but I was wrong. They dropped a bombshell on me. They wanted me to give all of my restaurant savings to my sister for her education. I was shocked. The room fell silent as I tried to process what they were asking. My sister sat there with a smug look on her face, as if she already knew what was going to happen. My parents looked at me expectantly, as if they were waiting for me to happily hand over my life savings. When I didn't immediately agree, my mom started talking about how important education was and how this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for my sister. My dad chimed in, saying that family should always come first and that I needed to support my sister's dreams. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What about my dreams? What about the years of hard work I had put in? I told them I couldn't do it. I explained how much this money meant to me and how close I was to achieving my goal of opening a restaurant. My parents' attitudes changed instantly. My mom started crying, saying she couldn't believe how selfish I was being. My dad's face turned red with anger. He started yelling about how I was betraying the family and that I had always been jealous of my sister's success. My sister just sat there, not saying a word. She didn't even try to defend me or say she didn't want to take my money. It was clear she felt entitled to it. The argument escalated quickly. My parents threw every guilt trip in the book at me. They brought up how they had sacrificed everything for us, how they had allowed me to live with them rent-free, conveniently forgetting all the chores and house maintenance I did, and how I owed them for raising me. I stood my ground. I told them that while I loved my sister and wanted her to succeed, I couldn't give up on my own dreams. I suggested that she could take out student loans, as many other students do, or maybe defer for a year to work and save up money. This suggestion was met with outrage. My mom called me heartless for even suggesting that my sister should have to struggle or delay her education. My dad said that taking out loans was too risky and that it was my responsibility as the older brother to provide for my sister. The argument went on for hours. Every time I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. My parents brought up every mistake I had ever made, every shortcoming they perceived in me. They compared me unfavorably to my sister at every turn. It was like years of pent-up resentment were being unleashed. Finally, my dad delivered the ultimatum. He told me that if I didn't give my sister the money, I would be kicked out of the house. He said I had 24 hours to decide, either hand over my savings or pack my bags. I was stunned. I couldn't believe they would go this far. Part of me wanted to cave in to keep the peace and not risk losing my family. But a bigger part of me knew that if I gave in now, I would resent them forever. I would be giving up not just my money, but my self-respect, and my dreams. I spent that night tossing and turning, weighing my options. By morning, I had made my decision. I started packing my things. When my parents saw me, they seemed shocked. I think they really believed I would give in to their demands. As I was loading my car, my mom made one last attempt to change my mind. She told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life and that I would regret this forever. My dad just watched from the window, his face a mask of disappointment and anger. My sister finally spoke up, but not to defend me. She called me selfish and said she always knew I didn't really care about her. Her words hurt more than my parents because, despite everything, I did care about her. I just couldn't set myself on fire to keep her warm. I drove away from my childhood. Home feeling a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, fear, but also a sense of relief. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself against my family's unreasonable demands. The first few days were tough. I stayed with a friend while I looked for an apartment. My parents blew up my phone with messages, alternating between guilt trips and angry tirades. I blocked their numbers for my own peace of mind. Word got out to the extended family and opinions were divided. Some relatives supported me, saying my parents were being unreasonable. Others sided with my parents, calling me selfish and ungrateful. It was a mess. I found a small apartment and threw myself into my restaurant plans. It was hard work, especially without the support system I thought I had, but it was also exhilarating. For the first time, I was fully in control of my life, and my decisions, weeks, turned into months. I heard through the grapevine that my sister had decided to defer her admission for a year to work and save up money. Part of me felt justified, but mostly I was just sad that it had come to this. My parents made a few attempts to reunite, but always with the condition that I should still give my sister the money. I stood firm in my decision. Our relationship remained strained and distant. Now, 6 months later, I'm close to signing a lease on a small space for my restaurant. It's not much, but it's a start. Every step I take toward my dream reminds me that I made the right choice. But there are moments of doubt late at night when the excitement of the day fades. I wonder if I did the right thing. Was I really being selfish? Should I have made the sacrifice for my sister? Did I overreact by cutting off contact with my family? I know my parents' behavior was toxic and manipulative. I know my sister was being entitled, but they're still my family, and part of me misses them, despite everything. I can't help but wonder if there was a better way to handle the situation. So, Reddit AITA, was I wrong to refuse to give up my savings? Should I have found a middle ground? Or was I right to stand my ground and pursue my dreams even at the cost of my family relationships? Edit 1. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for your comments and support. I'll try to address some common questions and provide more context. Yes. My parents have always favored my sister, but it was never this blatant before. Looking back, I can see a pattern of them expecting me to sacrifice for her, but it was always smaller things. A sister's undergrad was paid for by a combination of our parents' savings and a scholarship she got. A master's program was unexpected, which is why they didn't have enough saved. Some people asked about my sister's job prospects. She's studying in a field with good career potential, but it's not guaranteed. My parents seem to think this degree will set her up for life. A few comments mentioned cultural expectations. We're from a culture where it's common for older siblings to help younger ones, but not to this extreme. Most of my cousins think my parents went too far. To those asking why I didn't move out earlier, I was trying to save money. And in our culture, it's normal to live with parents until marriage. I realize now, this gave my parents too much control over me. Some suggested I should have offered a smaller amount to keep the peace. I considered it, but my parents made it clear it was all or nothing. They wanted the full $75,000. For those curious, About the restaurant, it's going to be a small place focusing on fusion cuisine, combining elements from our cultural background with local flavors. It's scary, but exciting. A lot of people are asking if I'm in contact with my sister. I've tried reaching out a few times, but she either ignores me or responds with short, cold messages. I think she blames me for ruining her plan to address the comments. About my parents' financial situation, they're not struggling. They have good jobs and live comfortably. They just didn't want to dip into their own savings or retirement funds. Some suggested family therapy. I'm open to it in the future, but right now, I think we all need space. My parents still haven't. Acknowledge that their request was unreasonable. Thank you all again for your insights and support. It's been therapeutic to share this story and hear your perspectives. I'll keep you updated on how things go with the restaurant. Edit 2. Another update since there's still interest in this post. I've been thinking a lot about the comments suggesting I try to mend things with my sister separately from my parents. You're right. She's young and possibly still under their influence. I decided to reach out to her again, this time with a longer email explaining my side of things. To my surprise, she responded. Her email was a mix of anger and confusion. She admitted that she felt torn between wanting the opportunity I was denying her and feeling uncomfortable with how our parents were handling it. However, she suggested meeting next week to talk things out in person. As for the restaurant, things are progressing well. I finalized the lease and started renovations. It's a lot of work, but every day I feel more confident in my decision. Several of my friends have offered to help, and their support means the world to me. My parents haven't reached out since my last update. A cousin told me they're telling family members that I've abandoned them. It hurts, but I'm trying to focus on the positives in my life right now. Some of you suggested I write a detailed letter to my parents explaining my feelings and perspective. I think I'll do that once the restaurant is up and running. Right now, I need all my energy focused on making this dream a reality. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It's been incredibly helpful during this difficult time. It's been almost a year since my last post, and I wanted to share what's happened since then. A lot has changed, and I'm still processing it all. First, the good news: my restaurant is up and running. It's been open for about 4 months now. Small, just like I always planned. The cozy atmosphere and a menu that combines traditional recipes from our culture with local flavors. The first few weeks were incredibly stressful, but things have started to stabilize. We're not making huge profits yet, but we're breaking even and building a loyal customer base. I've even been able to hire a small staff, 2 line cooks, a dishwasher, and a part-time server. I've been working non-stop, often 14-hour days, but every minute feels worth it. This is my dream, and I'm living it. The support from my friends and the few family members who stood by me has been invaluable. Now, for the twist I never saw coming. Yesterday, as I was prepping for the dinner service, I heard the bell over the door ring. I called out that we weren't open yet, but then I heard a familiar voice say, "I'm not here as a customer." It was my sister. She looked different, tired, less polished than I remembered. For a moment, we just stared at each other, neither of us sure what to say. Finally, she broke the silence. "I need a job," she said, her voice quiet and hesitant. "I was wondering if you had any openings." I was stunned. This was the last thing I expected. I invited her to sit down, and we talked for the first time in months. It turns out that things hadn't gone as planned for her. She had deferred her admission to the Ivy League school, thinking she'd work for a year and save up. But finding a job in her field proved harder than she'd anticipated, especially without the master's degree she'd been counting on. Our parents, she told me, were still furious with me. They blamed me for ruining her chances at a top-tier education. They'd been pushing her to find a high-paying job to fund her studies, but the pressure was getting to her. She'd moved out of their house a month ago, unable to handle their constant disappointment. As she talked, I could see how much she'd changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a humility I'd never seen in her before. She admitted that she'd been wrong to feel entitled to my money, and that she regretted not standing up for me that day. I won't lie. Part of me just felt sad. Sad for the time we'd lost. Sad for the way our family had fallen apart. I told her I'd think about the job and let her know. Now I'm torn. On one hand, I'm still hurt by how she acted before, and I worry that hiring her might open old wounds or create new problems. On the other hand, she's my sister, and she's asking for help. Plus, I could use another server for the busy weekend shifts. I haven't made a decision yet. I keep wondering what my parents would say if they knew she'd come to me for help. I wonder if this could be a chance to start rebuilding our relationship, or if it's just asking for trouble. So, Reddit, I find myself needing your advice once again. Should I give my sister a job? Is it wise to mix family and business after everything that's happened? Or should I tell her to look elsewhere? I never thought I'd be in this position, making decisions about my sister's future. Life has a way of surprising you, I guess. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. Final update, it's been a few weeks since my last post, and I've made a decision that I never thought I'd make. After a lot of soul-searching and several long conversations with my sister, I've decided to help fund her education. I know this might come as a shock, given everything that happened before, but hear me out. After my sister came asking for a job, we started talking more regularly. I didn't hire her at the restaurant. I realized that mixing family and business right now would be too complicated, but our conversations made me see how much she had changed and grown in the past year. She apologized for her behavior during the family confrontation and admitted that she had been entitled and selfish. She told me about how the past year had been a wake-up call for her, working minimum wage jobs and struggling to make ends. Meat had given her a new perspective on the value of money and hard work. What really got to me was when she said, she understood now why my restaurant dream meant so much to me. She'd seen how hard I'd worked to make it a reality, and she respected that in a way she never had before. I also learned that our parents were still pressuring her about her education, making her feel like a failure for not finding a way to fund it herself. It reminded me of how I felt under their expectations for so many years. After a lot of thought, I made a decision. I told her I would pay for half of her tuition for the upcoming year. It's not the full amount my parents had demanded before, but it's a significant contribution that will allow her to start her master's program without drowning in debt. Why did I decide to do this? It's not because I felt obligated or guilted into it. It's because I saw genuine change in my sister. I saw someone who had learned hard lessons and was trying to better herself. And ultimately, I realized that I did want to help her if I could not, at the cost of my own dreams, but in a way that felt right to me. My restaurant is doing well enough now that I can afford this without jeopardizing my business. It feels good to be in a position where I can help on my own terms. My sister was overwhelmed when I told her. She cried and hugged me, promising that she would work part-time to cover her living expenses and that she'd pay me back someday. I told her the best way to pay me back was to make the most of this opportunity. We haven't told our parents yet. I'm not sure how they'll react, but I know that whatever happens, it won't change my decision. This is between my sister and me. I feel at peace with this choice. It's not what I expected, but it feels right. Sometimes, life gives you a chance to rewrite the ending of your story. This is mine.